What is going on, everybody? Lukey Boy here. Today I'm going to do a video on if there is a bear market in the overall crypto space, let's say for the next 6 months to 2 years, because obviously it could be in unknown period of time, then what is my play? So what will I be doing if that is actually going to be the case in terms of where I think prices could fall to, and then what I'm going to be doing in the NFT space to obviously take advantage of that where possible, and my plans and sort of thesis that I've sort of created around that. Okay, so obviously I'm not going to go into the Luna and UST mumbo jumbo because I've done that video already, and that's old news by now. But obviously this is Ethereum. Okay, so on the daily. So the daily, you could look at the other time frames, but really we just want to look at the daily right now. And what you can see, obviously, this is Ethereum. So in theory, it's actually pretty decent. Yeah, I mean, if you look at this, does it look bad? Like we're there. Does it look? This is 7 years ago, not even that far away. Does it look bad? No. But obviously it could come down, right? We saw about $5,000 as the $5,000 to the top. It's now 2,100-ish. And what's the play here? This is my kind of crappy line that I drew to kind of see what would happen in terms of that event. But I've had these kind of drawn out for a while. Same with Bitcoin, right? Obviously the Bitcoin and Ethereum pretty much play together. Although Ethereum and the alts will drop more in percentage terms over Bitcoin. So what I mean by that, just very quickly, is this was the last bull run. Obviously, somewhere around here, I believe. So it started because that to there was not that wasn't it. So it must be here to. Okay, but you can see that they're like 50% drops, right? This is probably like a 70-something% drop, 83. Yeah, so it's 83% there. That's not a bull market or anything. That's just a consolidation, attempted bull market, failed, COVID period, blah, blah, blah. So, let's say normally it's between 75% and like 85%, give or take from the top. So if you just do some simple math, 75%, but you don't have to be perfect on this, right? You just need to have zones. So 72% is this loan here. The reason I've done that is because that's kind of like the previous all-time high there, you can see, which is normally, potentially good support. You can dip that down. And also, if you actually look down here, there's a little bit of consolidation before it broke out of that all-time high. So when it actually reapproached the previous all-time high, can't really see 100% on the screen, it was here. It kind of like had a little while of, it attempted it here, came back down, was just grinding out the area, and then it popped up, and then obviously that was off to the races, right? As soon as it popped up and closed that day there, where my cursor is, it then blew up another 202%. Not like that's obviously as big as what it can be, because obviously if you take it from the COVID dump, for example, the ultimate low, well, the ultimate low is before that was 1,600%. The ultimate low is actually slightly crap. It's actually just down here. But and there were still gains on that, yeah. But ultimately it was a bit lower. Was it like $3,100? I was around from like 14,000 Bitcoin right over here somewhere. So actually it wasn't, it was actually kind of like around the peak of the bull cycle, to be honest. At the 20? Yeah, so I was must have been around here somewhere. Maybe I was before. Maybe I was around here. 11. That's when I started getting interested in it. I knew what it was before. I knew what it was when it was about 300, because it used to be on eToro. I used to trade on that like 7-8 years ago, and it used to be on there. Same with Tesla at like $50, but all good in the hood. And looking here, like usually it's between like something 70, around these kind of numbers, right? It could go lower. But what again, like with NFTs, I'm not worried about finding where it actually goes to in terms of the low. I just want to be getting a better buy than like buying here, yeah? Because obviously right now, there's no reason to buy. Now, again, it could be that this is actually the low. Because what it would need to do is it would need to close. So the reason I'm talking about Bitcoin is because Bitcoin will then knock onto Ethereum and so on and so on. It needs to close a weekly at least at like 32,000. If it doesn't, it's confirmed a lower low on the weekly, and it's probably going to come back down somewhere around, I don't know where. Can we draw something? Somewhere around here, right? And it could be anywhere. It could be here, it could be here. And obviously you can see this is a decent difference. It's like $7,000 difference. But obviously, it's like with NFTs, I don't know exactly where the lows will be. Can I get rid of this? Yeah, no. I don't know where the lows... No, it doesn't go away. I don't exactly know where the lows are going to be, but it's more about getting the rough zone so you're not buying at the top. Because ultimately, if you buy at the top, not only do you have to actually then see this happen, but then to get back to where you were, it's going to take double the amount of time. So well, it might not take double, but you get what I mean. So if you wait and you buy somewhere around here, like 22,000, even if it comes down to 15, 16, that's far better than here, right? but also you've not actually had to spend your money for like 6, 7, 8 months. So you can do stuff with that NFT wise. You can do whatever. You can keep it in the bank. You can, I don't know, like you could actually use that money now and just save a bit more like over those months and top it back up. You basically got opportunity with that. If you've got it tied up, you can't do anything. At least if you had the cash, you can, there's no opportunity cost, right? Opportunity cost is you've now got it in here and you've got to wait not only for it to come to the bottom, but then you've got to wait for it to always also ride back up to that before it then goes to like, I don't know, 190 grand, 200 grand in like 5 years, whatever, 10 years. So obviously, it's just like more negatives than positives. But if you're getting it in the right zone, then at least the time frame is far less for it to then reverse than if you buy back here and you get a better price. So it's more about looking at the long-term picture because, again, the long-term picture is clear for all. Same with Ethereum. It's clear for all, right? And so what's my play in terms of how I'm going to use this for NFTs? So the way that I see this, again, it's not like I'm going to suddenly have this thought process forever. It's going to be a ongoing work in progress. So as the weeks progress and I see things and I'm able to react and identify things, I will potentially change my mind or add and tweak things to this current thought process. But let's say that it does come down to about between $670 and $450, something like that. Again, it could wick down. Wick means like, see this little tiny line? That means during this week, it has actually been as low as $1,714 yesterday, for example. Look on daily. Yesterday, it went down here, but it actually ended up closing here, and then already today it's back up here, right? So it doesn't mean it won't wick, but obviously, like that's the sort of that's like quick half an hour action. This happened in 4 hours basically, in a 4-hour time frame. So if it was midday, came back 4 hours later, you'd already see it up here, even though it actually did get down there at one point. Same with Bitcoin, right? You go away, it was at 25,000, but actually when you came back up at home and looked in the laptop, it was like 27,600. And obviously now it's up here, right? So it can wick, but it's not, wicks are not important. Wicks are good because it flushes out people, because you don't want to have, if too many people are bullish, then usually the market will be bearish. If there's too many people bearish, usually the market will be bullish. Now the reason for that is because if 90% of the people have their money in going up, that basically they're either leveraging long or they just hold Bitcoin, and let's say that they buy in at this, like you're just buying it, at this price. Well, that means that there's less people. There's less. If people are basically willing to buy up here, if someone with a lot of money wants to push down the market, they can easier. The reason for that is because there's less. They basically get a bigger chunk of the pie because there's hardly any sellers. So they're forcing the price down or up, depending on what they've got. Because what they normally do is they're going to force the price in one direction, but on the other side, they have a counter trade. So they have more than one trade. They have they're using their normal Bitcoin to go down. So they're just selling. They've got like 1,000 Bitcoin, right? Or 1,000,000 Bitcoin or 100,000 Bitcoin, whatever it is. And they're selling generally. And they're just selling they're selling into the market, which is going to push it down. So they're not looking for buyers. They're selling it into the market at the cheapest. That would cause a knock-on effect for it to go down. But on the flip side, they have a trade open for a short. So they're basically saying 100x leverage short. So they basically are creating that short. So they're doing it with the Bitcoin, but because they got 100x leverage position, they're making 100 times more on if it was like 1,000 Bitcoin, they're just dumping that 1,000 Bitcoin into the market. But this 1,000 Bitcoin has 100x leverage or 50x or 10x or whatever. So it's basically getting more profit because it's multiples profit than that standard one sell Bitcoin. So I always go over this analogy is, if you leverage trading is literally simply, if you have $1 and you have 100x leverage and Bitcoin goes up $1, you actually get $100 into your balance. But the problem is on the other side, if it goes in the wrong direction and it goes down $1, you actually now negative $100. If you only have $1 in your balance, you won't even be able to do that. It can only go down 1 cent because obviously 100x means like 1 cent is actually worth $1. And as soon as you have 0 in your balance because of the sort of if you credit and debit the difference, then you have 0 balance and it will liquidate you, meaning the system or the platform will just get rid of whatever you've created. That trade you created will get you out, because otherwise you'll owe them money. And obviously by having all this, if you just did that, people just wouldn't pay, or they would create fake accounts and they would just muck around. You can have that. You can have margin where you're able to have like a credit, like an overdraft, to do that. But most people don't do that just because it is so risky. Because if you have like 100 grand overdraft and in 10 minutes you blitz through it, you've now got debt 100 grand and screwed. And that's ultimately like where that comes from, because there's less, it's easier to push down the market because there's more people buying. There's a lot of people that want to buy because they're bullish. It's easier to push down that market because lots of people are willing to buy at this price. If people are bearish, there's obviously less people willing to buy. And so it's harder to push down the market, and it's more likely to go up because of that reason. So it's just some light understanding for this. But so what am I going to be doing with NFTs? So I believe, okay, this is something we'll touch on over time in videos, in future videos, is that I'd say that Ethereum, does come down to around these yellow brackets, and it could take ages. It could take like a month or 3 months. It could take a year. It could be like August 2023, right? It could just slowly just kind of go up and down, but slowly just drip down, sort of like curl over. What I'm thinking is that, for example, if we go over to like some of these NFTs, we go to like a Bored Ape. So obviously, and now a Bored Ape hasn't really changed in value in the last, I don't know, not that long. So let's go to this one. So the value of Bored Ape is now like $208,000. Still loads, but obviously it's to get into that is cheaper now, because even if that ETH stays the same, obviously the value of that ETH gets lower, so people can buy in cheaper because they just deposit whatever amount they need to put in. So if ETH went to $400, right, something that's 1 ETH is something that is 1 ETH obviously is not worth what we think now 1 ETH is worth, because 1 ETH now is worth $2,100, right? So it's easier for us to get 1 ETH, and it's not seen as the same amount, even though it's 1 ETH. It's 1 ETH, 1 ETH. And that's why I always talk about see 1 ETH is 1 ETH, because in the long term, this is what you expect to see. This. So it doesn't matter that Ethereum goes down 94% to $60 or whatever it did get at one point, because it's the long-term building of Ethereum or whatever you're trying to do. But obviously NFT is mostly around Ethereum, so we're talking about that. So it's about building your Ethereum while this comes down, because it's now cheaper. One, if you want to enter, it's cheaper. So if you want to add any liquidity to trade, it's if it gets down here, it's 500 quid. It's not that, it's not that much. You can do that once a month, once every 3 months, and you could add like 5 to 10 Ethereum a year while it's at that lows, which is and obviously sort of around $5,000. Obviously that's like 10, 50 grand or whatever. Well, whatever it ends up being. So it's a lot, in terms of ability to do that, it's a lot different. And so what I will then think is that, yes, NFTs may have a bit of a bear market. Let's say this comes down to 50 ETH at one point, but that 50 ETH could actually be worth, let's just do this, 50, let's just say it goes to $500. It's only 25 grand. Now, even if it stayed exactly the same as this, times $500, that's 49,000. So the price doesn't change in ETH, but this is now worth 4 times less. Yeah. You see what I'm trying to get at? So that's why I like building ETH as equity, and that is the priority. So when I'm buying and selling NFTs, I'm going to be trading in ETH, even if the price is lower. And I've mentioned this in like many aspects over time, that you should not really correlate this, because of volatility, you'll end up getting so confused about what the hell you're doing with pricing, because the price of this will always change. And so by focusing on the long term in crypto and NFTs, like 3 years, it's not even 3 to 5 in some, it could take 5, could take 3, could take 4, whatever. 2 to 4, probably easier. But let's say that to compensate, NFTs actually rise. So let's say to compensate, because it's this is now worth like 25 to 25,000 all the way to 50 grand. To compensate, this doubles. So this goes to 200 ETH. But again, 200 ETH times $500 is 100 grand, half price in monetary terms. But in ETH, it's not, because the play is to build up your ETH, sell your NFTs for profit in ETH, and then in the 3 years have not only decent amount of ETH, but also good blue chips or good NFTs that are now worth a hell of a lot more, even though they're actually worth the same amount of ETH. Yeah, because not only is it a negative in one sense, like this, as in your NFTs are getting worth less, that's not a good thing. But in terms of the long-term play, the opposite will happen. You would have bought in at 50 ETH, which is, let's say that's 50 ETH is worth 50 times 500. I always just double check, 25 grand. But then your 50 ETH now is worth 208,000. And you're like, whoa, didn't even do anything. It's not even gone up in value in ETH. It's still worth the same amount of ETH, but it's now 4 times more. And so you're playing the bear market in that sense, and then you're pushing through into the bull market next time, however long that might be, 3 to 5 years. Now, to make a decent life-changing amount of money in 5 years, that's not that long. That's nothing. People never make life-changing money in their life. That's why, probably why it's called, well, it's probably not why it's called life changing, but you get what I mean. And so by playing it like that, so don't go, oh my God, all my NFTs are like going to 0 or whatever, because the value of like, 0.1 ETH is like, whoa, so less. I can't believe it's worth like 100, whatever it is. But it doesn't matter. Ignore that. Play everything by ETH, because long term, that's what you're looking for. Long term, and 5 years is actually not long term. 5 years is like a medium term. Short term is 1 to 3, is it? No, it's meant to be 1 year, but yeah, I would say it's 1, medium term 3. I guess you could say it's long term, but not 5 years goes like that, right? Even 10 years goes like that, but 5 years definitely goes like that. 3 years goes like that, and then you'd be like, oh, I only got 2 left. You could do it like that just to fool yourself a bit, so you don't give up. I like to brainwash myself to do it like that. And so that's the play. So you don't sell your NFTs now. You wait till the next bull market in NFTs. Obviously, you can sell them now if they're selling for profit, right? But wait, basically accumulate now, or you could even. I wouldn't be buying in ETH right now. I would wait because there's really at least you want to see like on the weekly. You want to see what happens with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin will lead the rest. This actually doesn't look so terrible, to be quite honest. And the only thing I quite like is this, like ETH's still in an uptrend against Bitcoin, which is really interesting, because usually this is actually. I'm just trying to see. So when Bitcoin, this is something interesting to show you. When Bitcoin was on the 11th of December 2017, so when Bitcoin was at its all-time highs, look where this was. It was at its all-time highs, but look what it did after, right? So when it was at its all-time high, it was here. So it basically, you can kind of see it's very similar to here in a way. Oh, sorry, similar to, we were looking at the wrong bit, my bad. Let me just go back to that. So we've got Bitcoin here. This is the annoying part of the charts, right? So all-time high, 11th of December. Now on here, 11th of December, June. Yeah, this is what I'm for. Ethereum versus Bitcoin was at a massive low. Look at it already had its Ethereum Bitcoin, meaning how much Ethereum you can get, how much one Ethereum is worth against Bitcoin. So here it's at 0.15. So 0.1 Ethereum could get you 0.15 Bitcoin. But when Bitcoin had its all-time high, it was actually right down here. And that was the highs ages before. Even though ETH in its price didn't actually get to its all-time highs until after Bitcoin. So I think this was here, 12th of June. So this little high here on Ethereum, see it goes high, and then kind of does this. Not massively different to here. I mean, it's not going to be the same. That is actually where ETH had its all-time high against Bitcoin. But then Ethereum actually then obviously went from $308 to $1,400. Yeah, so it's just interesting to see that the correlation when ETH is doing relatively well. Not to say that badly would be down here, right? Somewhere like this. Like something like probably somewhere around here. Or that wouldn't be badly. I say badly probably would be somewhere around. But anyway, anywhere around there or lower is probably just a sign that's coming down. But while it's doing this, it's not so bad at all. So does that mean there's a decoupling, meaning things are changing with Ethereum versus Bitcoin? Maybe. But it's just something, again, I've got in the back of my mind. So this may not be what we call the bear market, even though it looks pretty bad. Well, I wouldn't say this looks pretty bad. I'd just say it looks normal. It actually does look normal to me. So I'm like, like this is in 1 week. Look at this one. How bad that one was. I mean, this was only yesterday. It went down like 55%, and Ethereum went down something similar. And this isn't even that bad. This went down 30 or 35 probably if I just missed a bit. Like that's a date. That's normal. Like it is actually normal. If it isn't for you, then maybe it's not. Maybe it isn't. This isn't for you, because like the longer that you're in the space, 30% in a day, 50% in a day is like the max, but it's pretty standard. Like I've seen it many times. Like let's have a look. This one here, 40%. This one here, 45%. This one here, 40. Like how many 40 to 50% have I seen in a this is a week. Sorry, a week, but it happens usually within a day. I can't bother to go into the daily, but just so you can see that some of the wicks. This one here, you've got one here, you got this big one here, you've got the huge one here that did that. And this just happens time and time again. And I know it looks really small on here, but if you zoom in, like there's another one there that did like 56%. But it happens on the other side as well. You have like definitely was not 83% in a day. I think it must have been maximum something like. These are like 50%. It happens both sides. I wouldn't even worry about it. It's like I just giggle to myself. I actually giggle to myself. This is hilarious. But actually, it's good because the reason it's good is because the more that you get this out the way, however many times it needs to happen, the quicker we can get into the next bull market, ultimately. You need that because you had this like 2,500% gainage. I mean, seriously, like you're going up 1,000%. You don't expect like 50% down. I mean, like, who are you if you don't, like if you don't clearly see the, and if you go from the previous lows of the previous, like it's 5,500%. Like that was only like 2 years ago, and so like I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down like to these levels because it goes up so ridiculous. Let's just do some quick math. If it does come down to these levels, what's another 5,000%? Ethereum at $23,000. I mean, there. Even if it does like half that, 3,000. Oh look, it's around what I actually put on one of my lines for its potential all-time high, 13 grand. And that's literally the play. Accumulate your ETH. Sell for profit in ETH, even though that the value of the pound or US dollar is a lot less. Build your ETH, stack your ETH, like as in try to build up your ETH. Buy some decent blue chips that are now not only low in the bear markets, they are not only now lower in ETH because of the bear market, but the actual value is also lower. So in theory, like, if it got down to $400 around here, every month I'll be looking to stack ETH, because because not only that, I can stack ETH on the side and play the long-term uptrend, but I can also then potentially like buy a blue chip for 5 ETH, which is actually undervalued anyway because we're in a bear market, and my actual entry price for that is like 4 times less than what it is now in terms of buying that ETH and cash from now. So I'm playing multiple plays in one. What I've currently got and everything, I'm trying to build a stack ETH. I'm trying to make profit in ETH. And who cares what the actual ETH value conversion is? And then if it gets down to where I hope it gets to, I actually do hope it gets to this in a way. It's a bit sick, but I want to. You want to have more plays at the game, yeah. It's safer buying down here than it is up here, right? Even though you might get scared down here. But when you do get scared, that's a sign, or not just you, but everyone. That is a sign that you need to be doing the opposite of what everyone's doing. So like, it's actually a good sign. So if you get really fearful, like, oh my God, I can't believe what's happening. That's actually, that you should just take a second to go, does crypto Twitter, everyone getting scared? Does YouTube? Yes. Then it may be like, I'm not going to fall for that. Time to buy. Yeah. And that's exactly how you should play it. Again, it's not financial advice, but you should try to, when everyone's fearful, you should be greedy, and when everyone's greedy, you should be fearful, right? That's basically the play. Very simple. When everyone's up here, like, it's going to go to 13,000, 12,000. And not to say it won't, but if you were buying down here, like 800. So what we're trying to get is that if this does enter a bear market, you want to be the people collecting down here, or even if it's not at the very bottom here, yeah. Because even if you're not getting it there, but you're getting it here, that's still a 1,000% increase on your ETH. Even if you're buying here, a little bit here, maybe a little bit here, because you can't buy it, or you haven't got unlimited money to be buying it every day, right? But you're just buying it like anything below this yellow line. Now, not to say that there's a $490. There's a massive difference, but who cares? Who really cares when you're actually getting up here? And then you can compound that with NFTs. So not only is your ETH going up, but your NFT value is potentially going up because you've got blue chips, which are undervalued because the overall market is down. So there's a lot less liquidity within the market, and therefore you can then make the premium later on when the market comes back and there's more emphasis in the next cycle of NFTs, which would be like NFT 2.0 or whatever. And you can actually then, smash it hard, basically. And that's the play that I am playing. That's why I've always said I'm going to be in it for the long term, because I understand I already understood all this. Like, in the back of my mind, I know what's going to happen. And so I need to prepare for that, because that's where the opportunity is. Yeah, not to say there's not opportunity anyway, but the biggest opportunity is that. But that takes longer to play out. Yeah, it's not like a tomorrow opportunity. Yeah. And so that's just something that I thought was really interesting to give to you guys, because obviously right now people can be very fearful, but you need to understand that is the way that I am playing it. And again, we'll reevaluate this over time so that we can see what happens and how things go on. And maybe we have to tweak that. Maybe this is the low. And if that is the low and this is the lows, Jesus, like obviously what I'll do then is I'm not going to be buying any more ETH, because I just don't need to. I have my NFTs, I have all that going on. So I am in the ecosystem already. And then if we go onwards and upwards to 13 grand, well, we could be trading and doing our NFT trading. Obviously the ETH is going to be worth more in the future if that happened, if that scenario played out. And then at some point we can then near the top, take out some profits, blah, blah, blah. Blue chips can be, super expensive by then. But then you can play this scenario that I've mentioned for most of this video after that. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Just give you some overview of my thoughts, and ultimately, I don't even really care what it does because it just creates opportunities one way or another. It doesn't matter what way the market goes. It just means that certain scenarios are now in play for me. I'm like, oh yes, scenario B or scenario 361 is in play, because not that I have that many scenarios, but you get what I mean. And so that's the play. This is why it's worth thinking about all of these things. But if you're not thinking about these things, I would look and wonder why. And maybe you need to educate yourself on various things. Maybe you need to, whatever it is. Because like the more options you have and the more scenarios you create, the better battle ready you'll be when things happen. If you create a scenario for every possible action and reaction, then you'll almost be like a prophet. Like if you were able to actually do that, because obviously one of them is going to be right at some point in the future, and then you already know how it's going to play out. So I'm going to leave the video there, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.